Hello, everyone. Welcome to Autofocus. I'm here today. I'm joined by two amazing ladies. I'm here with Anna and Sam. And so I wanted you guys to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit more about you and what you're all about. Anna, we'll start with you.
To you or the camera?
Either one.
All right, let's go to the camera because
camera.
like the people watching us, right? So
yeah.
I'm Ana Xavier. I'm the founder of the podcast Space, and I'm a multilingual, award-winning podcast marketer. What a mouthful. And I work primarily with impact-driven business owners and leaders to help them grow their podcast and grow their content strategy and their marketing strategy.
All right. You've been practicing your elevator pitch.
Absolutely.
Like it was like,
yeah, that rolled off the tongue quick.
Yeah, you're like, this is it. Yeah.
Because I'm with y'all, I'm like on it.
Yeah.
If I was recording at home, I'd be like,
yeah.
Yes.
I love it. All right, Sam, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to stumble through mine now compared to Anna. But my name is Sam Lewandowski. I am the customer success specialist here at podcastvideos.com. And so I help our clients just make sure that their podcasts are ready to go, that they're hitting the milestones that they want, and kind of helping throughout that creative process. Because when they come here, they have no idea what they're doing or they just need some help. And so it's kind of my job to help make sure that they get everything done.
Awesome. Amazing. All right, Sam, how did you get started into podcasting?
Yeah.
Video podcasting, to be specific.
Yeah, so my background's in videography and like filmmaking. And so when I was in college, I went to school in Nashville and I was looking for video internships, trying to get in that space. And I stumbled upon a video podcasting internship with a boutique firm in Nashville called The Cast Collective. And so that was like my first exposure to podcasting. It was the first thing, specifically video podcasting. And so I like helped out, jumped in, and basically did what I do here, but in a way less professional sense there. And so we helped, shows with, I don't know if you guys know Savannah Chrisley. It's like Chrisley Knows Best is this reality TV show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
I
so
know the
like
reality TV
she
show.
did, it's the daughter, and she has a podcast all about that and her family. And so they like were recording there. It was very like niche, custom, like we would flip the room all the time for all of these video sets with people. And so that's how I got my start. And then I moved back home and found my place here.
Awesome. How different is it than like here at podcast?
Oh, very. It's like 180. It was, you go from super high custom, like, every light is changed. These people expect like we're moving couches and furniture for them to create these awesome podcasting spaces versus here, the method is very different. It's like turnkey. They just want to come in and record. They don't care. They don't want all of the fuss about them, like, oh, let me fix your hair here. Oh, shift your mic this way just a hair.
I know. We don't even like tell people to, we tell them to get in front of the mic.
Yeah.
But if the second you move that mic, we're like, well,
that was you.
That was you.
Yeah.
We don't stop anything. So I'm sure that was definitely really, really different.
Yes, it was.
We're like, Sam.
I know. I'm like,
let it go, Sam.
Yeah, exactly. I had to learn that not everything is as important as maybe we think they are. I mean, I feel like as creatives, people tend, like, you always want everything to be perfect. And so it's been a learning curve for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Anna? How are you?
How much time do we have?
I know. How long have you been podcasting?
Since 2008.
Okay, so you were like,
OG.
Yeah,
Yeah, mainly because, and people are always like, oh, what is podcasting? But like podcasting can be many things. And I'm originally from Portugal. And when I started podcasting, it was because my journalism degree, like the school was like very in an old building, and so we couldn't have like a PA system and a broadcasting system. So what we would do would be producing shows, and then they would go on a website that was like the radio website. So basically you would go and specifically like what a podcast is what we did. We have an RSS feed dedicated to each show. You had to like put it together. It was more like basically a lot more put together than what I do today. It was definitely more about kind of like going and interview people and then cut that out and all the things. So that's why I started. And then I worked in radio for a hot second, moved to London because my best friend, literally no reason whatsoever other than my friend going, I got into a degree in London. Do you want to come with me? And we have like the best friends, like adventure time. And I was like, yes, sure.
Yeah.
And no, I found like whatever course about radio production, advanced radio production. That when I was there, I was like, I know all of this because I work in radio.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but it's
like whatever, I'm learning.
Yeah. But it's like it's the length of the BBC. I'm sure I'll learn. And that's like that was an experience that really taught me how insular every single media is within each country. Because in Portugal it's still very like traditional, but then you move to the UK and it's a way more open. Like for instance, I always talk about this BBC Radio 1 Extra, which is like kind of like the more urban side of BBC. radio, they had a host called Gemma Carney, and she has a lisp. And I was like blown away that like someone with a lisp could be so like just on the airwaves, like just regular. And again, at the time, like 2011, it was still very much structure. You needed to have like the voice or whatever. So like that really brought a lot of awareness about like, oh wow, like not everything has to be the way that I saw it back home. So again, one of the benefits of moving to another country. And then I got involved with a lot of community radio. And so it was like a mix of like podcasting with online radio. At the time, that was like all the rage. Like the 2010s were all about online radio. And so then I started working with a nonprofit, and then they were like, yeah, we need someone who has all the skills about digital marketing. And I'm like, I got those.
You're like me.
Which then became really helpful for the job that I do now, right? So moved to the US later, started working for a PR firm that basically had content distribution. So you would come for being pitched on the news, but we would go, hey, how about having your own show? So we would all be former journalists, coaching clients on doing all sides of podcasting. So basically like, okay, coming up with a concept, all the things. Then in 2020, for a multitude of reasons, I realized like I want to like really be able to coach people through all phases of podcasting through the show to then like when you leave the studio, what do you do with the show? Because I was always passionate about every facet of it. And so then I launched the podcast space, which was always aimed at impact-driven entrepreneurs through their business model or through the content of their show if it was educational and really improving their community. It's been 5 years since, and it's been such a great joy because the company has evolved and podcasting has evolved from primarily audio to a video as we are doing it here. And since then, I've worked with clients all over the world. I normally like saying 4 out of the 5 continents. Antarctica, I'm waiting for you.
Someone will do a podcast.
The penguins, we gotta do a penguin podcast.
People like living there, surely. And have been able to speak all over the world. So that has been like so amazing, primarily for not only like people who are multilingual like I am, but women and underrepresented communities, because I know since working in podcasting for so long, women really struggle to show up. Especially on video. And so it is my goal and my mission to really empower more women and peers to show up in a way that like helps them get to their dreams and goals.
Awesome. Amazing. Well, what brought you to Northwest Arkansas?
Classic. My husband works for Walmart.
Walmart, y'all.
Walmart, yes. I mean, from Dallas to Northwest Arkansas, not much of a big stretch, but
isn't that bad.
Yeah, and funny enough, we got connected before I even came to Northwest Arkansas because there was, again, something amazing about the podcast industry is that you know someone and then they're really keen on helping you. And that has been something that out of like all the industries and different things that I've done has been just a consistent like winning point for the industry. Everyone wants to help. And so I was speaking at another conference before I moved, and someone called Alex Sanfilippo, who is the founder of Podmatch, he was like, oh, you're going to Northwest Arkansas. I've been talking to some folks there. I should introduce you to the folks there at Podcasting Videos. And so it was just the podcast videos studio. Whenever I arrived, I had been stalking y'all for like a few months. So when I stepped in, and again, like tips for everyone, like why wouldn't you not talk to people? Networking does not to be like, hi, I'm in a blah, blah, blah. Like it can literally be, hey guys, like build relationships online. And when I arrived, I mean, we've seen each other like a gazillion times by now, but it's just like really building those connections. Like, hey, I'm new. Like I do strategy. What do y'all do? Like, how can we be referring
together
to one another? Like, and I think collaboration is big in the industry.
Yeah, for sure. I know. Yeah, I know. You were the first one. When I went to the podcast movement, you were the first person I saw, and the first thing you did was like introduce me to like everybody that was standing around. So it was awesome. So yeah, it is. It's like that event made me see like, I'm like, oh, this like industry is like really tight. Like, and it seems like it's the same people.
Yes. And that's one of the problems when you are a podcaster. You're doing your own thing, unless you come into a studio. But most times you're in your house doing the thing, and it can feel very lonely. And you feel like you're like, oh, I'm admiring all of these people from like afar, and I'll never have a chance to connect. And then why not? Like I do this all the time. I want peers, and I want just the industry to be stronger. So I organize, I have a Discord channel between peers, and we we meet every Tuesday, and then like just making sure that people who are new to an event or whatever, like you are connected, because it's so important, because otherwise it just feels like you're on your own like adventure in a way, but it kind of like kind of sad. You're like, oh,
yeah. But everyone was so approachable. Like everyone was so approachable at the event. There was no egos. There was nothing. It was just like you can just talk to anybody. They're like, hey, we're all here because we have something in common. So that was just really, really awesome.
Can I sidetrack you for a second?
Yeah.
Was there anyone that you were like, oh, I really hope I get to meet this person there? Like that you were really looking forward to meeting at the podcast movement?
No, I had no expectations going in there, but I did see there was a guy who was in. They had the pamphlet of like the top like 100 podcasts, and like there was a guy that was in there, and he was like talking about it to this other guy, and so I was like, hey, can I interview you? And he was like, yeah, I just got to finish this email. And then somehow like we crossed, and I didn't get to interview him. And I was just like, man, I was like he was like probably the most like well-known podcaster we could have interviewed, but you know, oh well, next time. So that was probably like my missed moment, where I was just like, because he was like, I overheard him. He was like, this girl's talking me. It's like I overheard him talking about how he's like, oh yeah, I got in this thing, and he was like, look, Ma, I got published in a publication, and it was just really funny. I was just, and I was like, hey, I overheard you, and he was like, yeah, you're weird. So
no,
I think he he was like, oh, flattered. I was like, can I interview you? And he was like, yeah, let me finish this email. And somehow like, maybe I went to the bathroom or something, but like we didn't
next time.
I know, next time. I was like, next time I'll find you. So but that is not why we're here. What?
It's okay. It was all good background though.
Yeah, it was fun. But why we're here to talk about is marketing. So I wanted to talk to you guys about, you know, just kind of like how to market your shows. And so what are some of the things to avoid?
So for me, working with podcasters of all tech capacities and all creative capacities would be to follow someone's strategy without keeping in mind your strengths and how you best work and how your brain operates. Meaning, if you absolutely hate being on video and you have like a 3-camera setup and you're running it by yourself and you're not techie and you're trying to make it work, you're going to be really stressed out. But if you are like me, for instance, and you love designing information and creating like really educational carousels to promote like content that was on your show, do it. There's no one single thing. It's like just avoid where you notice that there's a lot of friction.
Yeah. How about you, Sam?
No, I love that. That's great. To go along with it, I think also don't be overwhelmed by thinking that you have to have this super big, long, thought out strategy. You know, marketing doesn't have to be like you have the whole plan written down and you know it for the next 6 months exactly what you're doing. It can just be, oh man, I have a great idea for a post and I'm going to put all of my effort into that one post and get it out there. Don't get overwhelmed by the bigness of what you think you should be doing.
Yeah. I'm sure like when we have clients walk in here, and then we have our others, some of them are probably really overwhelmed. And then you have other ones like big talk who just are like, they're just happy to,
you're just floating by.
They're literally filming their own conversations. They're like good friends, and they're just like let's get together and talk about stuff. And we don't even care if like other people want to listen. But now like 100 episodes in, people are listening. So yeah, that's really, really good advice. Like, are there any other marketing myths that are out there? Because I feel like there's so much stuff that's like, you know, it's like do this and do that, and you know, but like, does it really matter?
I think that, and this is something that perhaps not a lot of people are aware of, and that is that idea of like just be consistent. And the just be consistent does not work, because if you're, let's say, you have no GPS, and someone tells you just walk, you'd probably go where?
Yeah.
Right? Like, do I need shoes? Do I need hiking boots? Like, what do I need skis? And so I prefer the concept of strategic consistency. And so when you're looking at what you need to do, like plan from the goal. What is the goal? And try to create consistency within that. So if you, let's say you have like the capacity to create 1 post per week, that is something that your audience can expect, or an email per week, for instance, right? And I think that people just be consistent. I'm like, if you're just keep walking, but you're walking toward the wrong direction, and you're gonna be in the snow, not prepared at all, then you're gonna be like, this sucks. Yeah, I can't continue, right? And you're gonna give up. So for me, like that would be like one of the main ones.
Okay, that's a really good one. Any other myths that people do? Anything about, I just, you know, because I feel like some people make like they just make it harder than it is. And like if you make things super hard, you're not gonna do it.
Here's one that I've seen is I feel like people nowadays feel like they have to be on every social media channel ever. Like they have to be on all. And not that that's bad. That's not a bad strategy. If you can do that, do it. It's great. But I think there's also a lot of value in finding the channel that works for you. And if that's your capacity and that's all you can do, go do really well on that one channel. And you're probably going to have just as much, if not more, success than if you were trying to tackle all of them at once.
Like you're trying to shotgun.
Yeah, just like throw it all out there and do everything. Because what you get is you get to tailor like your content to one specific channel. You get to figure out who's your audience on that one channel. What can you do? And that's probably better advice for someone just starting out rather than, you know, you've grown the show, you know what you have more resources and ability and capacity. But
that's amazing.
Can I make a plug right now?
Oh, yeah.
So just yesterday, actually, I was talking to Jeremy Enns, who runs the podcast marketing trends report. And I asked him about this, like, okay, for the he studied like the podcast that had like the fastest growth. And one of the things that he, because this is all self-reported, all of these shows have been podcasting for almost close to 4 years. So these are people who have been consistent. And one of the things he talked about was the marketing channels that were the most successful. And he said that TikTok was associated with the shows that grew the fastest.
Interesting.
Now, caveat, a lot of like what our conversation was like, well, what is causation and, you know, what is leading to this? But he said that, okay, maybe like if someone is already doing video because they have the capacity to that or they're operating at a loss, they will see the fastest growth because they have the capacity, to your point, to just like pump content like nobody's business. If you're just doing it yourself, then that may not be the capacity. But X had a resurgence last year, which I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like both of us, actually, we had met on Twitter. And then both of us, whenever there was that shift that we all know, like we dropped that. So now we just see each other at conferences and that's it. But that was it. And then Instagram and like Meta products, I think that's what he said. I'm paraphrasing right now. Were like the ones that didn't really lead to like any like really fast growth. That the host did not associate that with like the fastest growth. So I thought that was like super interesting.
It is.
And I'm gonna make sure maybe we include the link to the report in the show notes. But I thought that was a really good like just different strategies for different folks. But keep in mind like what works for like someone who has a team may not work for you, solo creator.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Oh, I love it. No, let's talk about it goes into the next point. What are some tips that work? Like what's marketing tips that people should do? All right, Sam, we'll start with you.
Tips for marketing. Yeah, I think the biggest one for me is like use your guest and your network that you have on your show. If it's an interview style based show, obviously if you're doing something more creative and narrative, it's a little bit of a different story, but utilize the networks of those that are on your show because that's going to help grow you so much faster. Like if you have XYZ celebrity or XYZ guest and they have 500 followers on LinkedIn, and you're posting a video to LinkedIn, tag them. Send them content that they can post. Make sure that you get that to them because sometimes the marketing that other people do for you is going to be more beneficial than what you're doing for yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I really like that because we have Anna on here who has a huge market, and then we have Autofocus who has like 30 episodes. And so we get like 15 watches, which is probably like my mom and like maybe some friends from high school. So thank you guys. But now we have Anna here. So I'm so excited. And we'll collaborate on YouTube. So yeah, no, that is really good advice. And I do that all the time. But what about you? Okay, what are some marketing tips?
I really liked your tip about like the networking, and I'm gonna like add on to that before I go on mine because I find that that's a mistake that a lot of hosts do because they start the podcast a little bit to what you're saying. Maybe they need to build that confidence, and so they invite all the friends that they know, and so they're not expanding on their network, and so they get used to that comfort level that is like, oh, it's just me and my best friend or my good friend. And then they forget that the actual purpose of the podcast, again, going back to goals, what are your goals, was to nurture that network, to expand that network. And I find that like, if you're listening to this, ask yourself, if you were to invite a new person on your show, and let's say you have like a weekly show, if you have one person who you don't know every single month, that is going to be how many, like, no, I did the math on me, but, like at least 20 new people every single month at the end of the year that racks up.
Yeah.
And these are going to be people who are like, you spend one whole hour with, right? Besides if you did the prep or the after the episode. So just keep that in mind. But for me, it would be, let's think about high effort, low effort and combining that, because I find that to what we were talking earlier about, you know, you don't always need to be perfect. You don't always need to do all the things. And I think that for me, I run my business first and then there's the podcast. And I think that people forget that, like, that if you have the podcast as a tool for your business, you need to sometimes post an episode the following day as it wasn't supposed to. And that's okay. Why? Because we're looking at like the big picture, right? Like we're looking at, if we skip a week, we tell our listeners, hey, we skipped a week. I'm so sorry, guys, right? But we come back. We don't dwindle in the, oh my God, spiraling down. Oh my gosh, they're going to think that I'm not great, or like I'm never coming back. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed.
They're never listening to another episode ever.
Never. So for me, what I do is, if I have like interviews that are really in depth and are going to include me, like I'll have to spend a lot of time going back and forth and the editing, or just like doing a lot of like thinking, because I do a lot of editorial editing. Like, okay, what do I really want this episode to be about? This is fluff. Goodbye. Why did I spend 3 hours explaining this question? And like, I did not, goodbye. To me is like, okay, if that happens 1 week, I need for the following week to be like maybe a shorter episode. And what I mean by this is like, sometimes I publish an episode that is 8 minutes long, or I start by thinking it's going to be 8 minutes and I did 29. And I was like, oops, that went long. But you know, like the prep of each episode, like, can we, and I'm a big fan of this, if one quote can inspire a life-changing moment, or if it can lead to changing behavior, why can't a mini podcast episode, right? Like a 3-minute show can really stick to someone's mind and go, wow, like that reframed everything that I knew about X, or just like, it just helped me that day. So I think we need to think about like, what is value, and juggle those two, like high effort, low effort in the marketing and the podcast itself. If you have a 3-minute episode, it better be good, because then you can cut clips out of that. If you have a 3-hour episode, it's going to be 3 hours of editing. It's going to be a lot of effort. So in not just what you're doing in the moment, but how can we think about like, okay, after we record, we still have like an X amount of hours. What capacity do we have this week? So that was like my long-winded answer to that point.
I want to add on to your point earlier about like the getting guests on outside of your network, because the amount of hosts that we have that record with us right now, and most of them are doing it for business purposes, right? Like it's to help promote their business or do something. I can't tell you how many of them have been like, man, that interview that we set up for them, you know, or someone like a complete stranger that just reached out, that was a random connection. They're like, man, now we're doing business together. Like that was such a great connection. Like, wow, that was awesome. It's helping my business. It's helping me. Like maybe they're a new mentor, they're a new person, or we connected at a trade show. Like it really is a form of networking in itself. Is like, I would encourage people to think about, outside of marketing, how can you use the guests that you bring on your show to help like build your own knowledge base and like help, you know, edify yourself in whatever craft or field that you're in, especially if you're a business owner, or if you are promoting like you know, your own business or your own source of income or something in there. Cy Kirby's one that every week he comes in and, you know, we throw him someone and he's like, oh my gosh, that was great, we connected on this and this and this. And it's just so cool to see how podcasting can kind of bring connections.
It's funny to see him too, because he'll be like, oh, this is going to be a short one, and then an hour and a half later they're still going, and you're like,
have you ever
we
met
need to
this
close
person?
Like
yeah. And I'm like, did you know him beforehand? He's like, no idea, we just met, like we were just chatting it up, and like, you know, so,
and then it ends up being 2 parts, like, you know.
right.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I do want to sidetrack just a little bit. So you talked about editing and like, and how to like cut the stuff. I wanted to be like, because I really feel like it's really important to be like your harshest editor, because I feel like a lot of people are like, but I love what I said there, so it has to stay. How do you get over, how do you choose like what stays and what goes?
Well, I am very ruthless with myself. And I'm like, it was fluff. But it depends on how you feel about yourself. Because if you're like, I have great ideas, then you're like, everything stays. I think that it's all about like, are you making it about yourself? So I would say, is there value in what you're saying for the listener? But not only that, is it important for continuity? Because are you in continuity, meaning like, is there something within that section that you're going to refer to later in the interview? Why am I losing my voice? My goodness. So yeah, I would say like for me is like, what is the value of the interview? And if you cannot answer what is the angle of the interview, because there's too many sidetracks, choppy. So get cutting. Yeah, I think that to me that's the thing. Or it can be like with YouTube. Let's actually like make a side note here. Why think about like everything has to be in there? It can be like an exclusive piece of content, a segment that goes on YouTube, and you create a playlist. And it's just like moments from the show that didn't make the cut.
There you go.
And you market it like
behind
that.
the scenes. There you go. How about you?
Stuff. No, I agree. I think like my biggest thing is episodes need to be actionable for listeners. Like why I always say like, why did someone want to listen to it, right? You could come in with an idea about, I want to start a podcast on baseball, and they're like, I have all this I can talk about, and I'm like, cool, okay, what are you going to talk about? Baseball, you know, like are you going to talk about like recaps of recent games? Are you going to talk strategy on how to play? Are you going to talk from a coach's perspective? Like you really have to narrow in on what that goal is, and like what is the value, like what's the angle, and then just making sure that whatever you're giving people, it's worth their time listening to. Otherwise they're not going to listen, and that's probably going to be your biggest problem.
Those are people that are thinking like, but everything I say is amazing.
Yes.
You know, so you got to
Then
be
do
like
a solo.
yeah, I know.
Exactly.
You're like if this, but it's probably not. Like,
And let me tell
know.
you, like Joe Rogan, I think he does it, right? Like everything he says in his 3-hour-long episodes, people probably listen to. So if you're Joe Rogan, you can do it.
But you know, he probably had to work to get there.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Probably. Okay, back to the show. Well, that's my side track of the day. But I want to talk to you guys about social media advertising. So not everybody goes viral, and not everybody gets to find success without spending a little bit of money. So how do you set up advertising, social advertising on and then when do you start that?
For our clients, we really think that social media advertising can be really beneficial at the start of a show. Mainly because it helps push out that idea in figuring out who your audience is. So we use it as like a way to cast a wider net initially. So then later down the road, we can really narrow in. And so what that looks like is we basically blast it on everything, right? We're like, hey, push it out here and here and here and here. And it's not really with any like mindset. It's more of like, what's sticking, who's listening, who's clicking, what's happening. And that can help us figure out who your audience is a little bit faster. And then, later down the road, once you've established a base, your content's good, you have something worth clicking to and worth promoting, that's when you can use that research that you did to help kind of tailor in on those episodes. So no longer are you like pushing out on TikTok and Facebook and Google and all of these other advertising platforms. You're really just going, hey, like, YouTube is really good. People are, we're getting downloads. We're seeing that. Let's narrow in on YouTube, or let's narrow in on Facebook. And this is where our audience is and who we can find a greater audience for. I also think by casting that wider net initially, it helps you figure out what your content can be. So when you're starting your show, you're figuring out what are we going to talk about? What do people care about? And so it's a helpful tool in figuring out how can I narrow my content to the audience that seems to be engaged from the start.
That's really good advice. How about you?
I don't have any advice because I have not tried paid ad. I only used Pinterest many years ago.
Okay.
But it was like actually for the resources on the website. And that's the only thing that I tried. But I have a question.
Yeah.
So let's talk about misconceptions about marketing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you felt like a client came to you and they were like, I ace this platform, and then after advertisement you were like, oh my gosh, there's a whole new niche for you here, there's like a whole new segment in this other social media platform? Or was it like actually confirming what their guess was?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we see is clients will come in and they'll be like, oh, we don't want to be on that platform because I don't do that, or we don't like, nobody that's for our business is on there. Nobody for our show's on there. And I'm like, there's probably someone for your show on every single platform. Yeah. So never say never. Pinterest is a great example of a client that was like, man, I think Pinterest is a great opportunity for you. Like your content's around clothing, it's around branding, like it's around all of that. Like video ads are huge. I fall into the trap of clicking on those on Pinterest all the time.
Same.
I'm so angry when it goes to a website because I'm like, dang it. Like, I didn't know that was an ad. So yeah, I think there's always opportunities for people to grow more often than not. Like you might think you have it all together, but really like, yeah, these platforms are changing all the time too. The audiences of who's on there, what goes viral, what's not. it's shifting all the time.
That's funny. Yeah. And the Pinterest too, because it's like a clothing store for men and people think that Pinterest is for women, because you build a board and it's about decorating and stuff like that. But that's just such a misconception, I feel like. Yeah. So that's really, so it's really interesting to see just how, just like how advertising can open people up to something and then hopefully be open to what the findings are.
Yeah.
That's what's great about a shotgun blast. But how many episodes should you have before you start advertising on it? Because I feel like you want to send, if you're doing advertising, you always want to send something, you want to send them somewhere where they're going to get enough, where they're going to stay.
Yeah. I think personally, it kind of depends on the advertising you're doing, because my goal is I'm just trying to get an episode or a channel more views or more reach, more engagement. So if my ultimate goal is like growing the channel as a whole, growing the show as a whole, then I definitely think that before you start that specific type of campaign, you're going to want to have a good backlog of episodes, because when you send people to your website or your YouTube channel or wherever you're hosting all of your episodes, side note, if you don't have one central location for all of your stuff to be, you should get that. It doesn't have to be a website. It could be a link tree. It can be your channel. Like, you just need some place that everyone can find all of your stuff for all of your platforms, not just Spotify. And so I think if you're going to send people there needs to be content for them to listen to. And so, I mean, depends on the episode. If you're filming 8-minute episodes and that's what's going out, right, you're going to need quite a lot of that for people to want to engage and it be worthwhile. 3 episodes is usually like a good starting point. If you have at least 3 episodes, people are going to peruse it. That's usually enough to get people to stick, assuming that they're 30, 45 hour long episodes.
Minute. 35 minutes. You said 45 hours.
Minute.
Yes.
Nobody will listen to a 45 hour podcast.
Like Ken Burns. Yeah.
It's just the longest podcast ever. It never ends.
Don't give Eric that idea, because he will do it.
Oh, he will. 1000%.
Our founder is now, it's a challenge, the 45-hour podcast.
Yeah.
It will be like, find me hiking in a mountain. I'll document the adventure.
Yeah,
I know.
Bringing him coffee every
I know.
hour.
Just keep going.
Yeah, I think too, also, like, there's opportunities for advertising where if you have like a really good guest, we've used a scratch strategy before, like that, people in your audience are going to love, and you're like, my audience isn't big enough organically. I know not enough people are going to see this and it might not go viral because the algorithm doesn't love me. It's like, push that one episode and then people are going to get hooked, and that's going to show you to your that's going to drive you to your show. So there's kind of 2 strategies. You can go with the like growing the show as a whole, but you can also go with like episode by episode content where you're like, I just want to cast a wider net with this specific piece of content.
Yeah.
And that you don't really need a whole backlog if you don't, because they get hooked by one episode.
Yeah, there you go. And they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you have to be consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you something. I know the answer to this, but I talk about misconceptions.
Yes.
People will go, should I do, and let's stick to the episode format. I just want to push an episode. Should they push an episode like within like basically a solo episode, or should they push an episode with like a really famous guest?
I hope that I have the correct answer for you.
Well, it just depends.
Yeah, I mean, it really does. I will always say push it with a really popular guest, just because I think like you're gonna get more clicks. Like, most of the advertising we do is on YouTube, and so thumbnails are your biggest way that people are clicking on them. And I always say, like, if you're pushing an episode that people organically are already going to want to click on, if you're promoting it, like, the work's doing it for yourself, right? To me, a solo episode is probably going to be harder, depending on the content. You might be really creative and have a great idea, like, then push it. But if you have a really popular person, I'm going to say put some money behind it if you had the choice. But I think it's dependent, because there's a lot of situations I can think of right now that I'm not going to go into where I might say it's a different approach. What are your thoughts? I'm curious what your answer is.
Yeah.
My thoughts, and this is where, again, it depends. I love that, right? Like, for me, I know that every single person that I work with, they never have no one that fits necessarily a celebrity category. For them, they're like, you're a celebrity. But for no one else in the internet, it's a celebrity. And so for me, normally when I advise them strategically to push their own personal brand with a topic that resonates very well, so a really hot take, that is like super like pushes like the, oh man, like the emotion, right? Like it's something that you resonate right away, or it's something that makes you think, that like cuts deep and you're like, damn, I'm gonna think about that for the whole day. Or like humor always works, but again, if it doesn't match your personal brand, create expectations. But for me, most people that I work with, they will like doing the celebrity guests would do them at the service.
Yeah.
But let me say that when I had Jay Klaus, host of the Creator Science podcast, he has like one of the biggest podcasts out there. I interviewed him like 2 years ago. And when I posted initially that he was my guest, an interview that had happened 2 years ago, by the way. For a multitude of reasons, I had to like postpone it until sharing it later. But everyone was like, oh my God, like, Anna, I can't believe Jay, I love Jay, da, 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 da. People were excited, but they were excited for me, but like a new crowd would be like, I don't know. So it's always like, what is your goal with pushing that episode? And I always think about like, not only what is your goal, but what is the listeners or the audience's next step. Think about listener behavior and audience behavior first. If they see that clip, what will they do next? And setting up that expectation, because if you share something that has humor, for instance, and your show is absolutely not about humor, it resonated a lot with an audience that knows you. It may not resonate with a new audience because they're like, man, I followed this account because I thought it was just like cracking up jokes.
This would be funny. I mean, like it's super serious.
So like I think that like that's when it's important to have like, you know, maybe someone like y'all who's like really questioning the why, like why are we putting money behind this, right? And it's like, are we going for critical mass, like for approaching and making that clip recognizable as many people as possible, or not? So I think that is where I stand. But again, it depends. It depends what your goal is.
I think you brought up a good point, like driving home that the question that you should ask yourself on whether you should be pushing the episode or not is, does it align with your personal brand? Is it like a good example of what your whole show and your whole podcast is about? If it's not, don't put money behind it, because to Anna's point, like you're going to get people that watch it and they're going to get confused on what your show is and isn't.
Or just wasting money.
You don't want to waste wasting money. Which is never good.
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you guys so much for being here. I want to wrap this up. So I also want to talk to you guys, like I end every podcast with the same question, which is, what advice would you give to someone that is just starting out?
I'm gonna go first.
You got it. I'll let you take a stab at it first.
Like just starting.
Like just starting. Like they've just started. They maybe made a couple podcasts. They haven't gone viral yet, and they're like, I don't understand what's happening. I'm thinking I'm about to give up. What advice would you tell them?
This is the second time you're asking me this question, because we had an interview at Podcast Movement, and I completely forgot about this question. So I'm gonna go with like something that came to mind right away, which is remember to have fun, strategic fun. But like try to experiment with things, like really let yourself, like that side of yourself that maybe your clients or your family resonates with, try to bring that a little more to the show. Like for instance, we were kind of like cracking jokes in here. We still were professional, but we let our personalities come through. And I think that at the end of the day, people connect to people. Even, you know, if you have 3 people who are knowledgeable about the same thing, it's their experience and how they make you feel that will make you make that decision, right? Like not about like you being perfect, but like what you bring from you, yourself, your experience, your expertise, everything. So I think that stop trying to compare yourself and be hard on yourself. Try to bring in like, okay, how can I have fun? Because when you have fun, the audience has fun. And so I think that would be it. And it's more sustainable.
No, I love it. I'll piggyback off of that. I think too, don't be discouraged by what others think about you. I think putting yourself online is like very scary. You're like, oh, what are people going to think about me? I probably look stupid. That sounded bad. Like, don't be like that. Obviously, strategically criticize yourself, right? Like if you're giving yourself feedback, be your harshest critic, but give yourself some grace too, because I think consistency does help in recording. Getting in front of the camera as many times as possible is going to make your next thing so much better. Like episode 1 to episode 5, you're probably going to be like just oodles and oodles better than you were. And then by the time you're on episode 50, hopefully you're at the point where like it's just natural. It's just conversation and you don't have to freak out about it.
That's good. Amazing. Thank you guys. All right. Before we wrap up, I want to give you everyone one last chance to do a plug. Last plug. Where can they find you? How can how can people find you?
Awesome. I am at thepodcastspace.com/podcast if you want to listen to the show. It's releasing basically 10 episodes per season. And so right now, as the recording, I'm still on season 4. So there's over 109 episodes out there for you to consume. So
wow.
Yeah. And if you want to talk to me on Instagram. I'm at thepodcastspace.
Very cool.
Right, how about you?
Make sure you come check out podcastvideos.com and
tours are free.
Yes, free studio tours anytime. We're located in Rogers, Arkansas, right over next to the Heroes Coffee in Pinnacle. So come give a tour, chat with us, reach out to us on social media. We'd love to help get your stuff started.
All right, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. All right, and I will see you guys later.
Thank you.